Dun 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 dun.
Welcome to the CMF Running Podcast. Here for another week.
Hope you're well.
Yay! This week we're talking about fueling for long training runs and ultras.
Let's talk about food.
I think this is a good topic. Sort of as we start to come into the summer season of ultras, isn't it? And even this weekend we got Rage against Riverhead.
Rah.
Rawr.
Rah.
Rawr. And which a lot of us are, a lot of the crew that we coach are coming together. I think we have a good dozen of us there, and we're going to be doing, basically solo, long training kind of effort, in that sort of 8 to 12 hour range. And so we'll all get a good chance to practice the sort of thing that we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's good. Practice is good. Practice and training is good because so on race day you're all fueled and know what you're going to do and you're going to do well.
That's the number one golden rule, isn't it? Really, that you hear time and time again, and it is practice and training what you intend to do on race day.
Yes, don't suddenly change, what you eat on race day because you were talking to Sally and she said that this was good for her. You never trained with it before because who knows what's going to do in your stomach? Because, we are, running for 8 hours plus isn't a normal thing to do. So things can change in your body and how you react to things can change without getting into too much detail. But
that's where aid stations can become quite dangerous. Like if you have I think we've all experienced this, eh?
Totally.
Like if you have you go into your ultra and you've got a bit of a fueling strategy that you've practiced in training and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're running past all these buffet smorgasbord, things, and sometimes they have things on them, items of food that you haven't tried in training. You're like, oh, I wonder what that's like.
Totally done that. Did that in Taupo 100K. I just was like, it was like not that far in. It was like 25 Ks in, I think. And I was just like, oh, I'll try these chews that I've never had before. And I just ended up really full actually at the end of my race because I just was just eating all these things that looked delicious.
Overfueled.
Yeah, it was actually. I was.
So you had your fueling that you took with you and some.
Yeah, just a nibble on the side.
Yeah, it does happen. I was actually talking to someone just yesterday who has experienced that in a race too. Fueling.
Yeah.
Over fueling.
I think it's also the way that quite often in aid stations they cut up the Cliff Bars. So they're bite-sized little pieces. So you think it's not that much.
Little brownies and things.
Yeah, and you're just those Cliff Bars are obviously really calorie dense. It's not every day that your muesli bar has 200 calories in it. So, it's quite a lot of calories you're taking on. But yeah, it's just part of the learning process. Hopefully nothing, too bad happens to you. Like for myself, I didn't actually just ended up really full, but I didn't end up doing any.
It didn't derail your race or anything.
No.
Yeah. You just ended up not eating for ages, eh?
Yeah, I just did the last 25 Ks on trying to sip Coke. Chris is like, you need to eat something or take calories on, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
But I've learned from that. Hopefully, haven't done it.
Well, that's the thing, eh? Things change as well, eh? He was like, I learned from it this time, but I might make the same mistake or a similar new mistake or whatever. Yeah. It's a moving target.
For sure.
That's the thing as well. There's also so we're fueling with food, or a mixture of an ultra situation where food, bit of gel, bit of hydration mix, got a little rotation of things going on. And and then we're throwing water and stuff on top of that as well. Eh? It's like it's all sloshing around in there.
It's a fine line, eh? Because it's just running on not an empty stomach, but not a full stomach is
more comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
See if we can run faster. But yeah, it's just.
So it sounds like this is a good place to start, in a sense, because comparing like an ultra training run or an ultra race itself, where you're pretty much in your aerobic zone, aren't you? So your fuel requirements are not like straight up carbohydrates. Your body is utilizing more fat for fuel. So there's not a requirement for punchy carbs in the same way that there is for a half marathon race or even a marathon or a harder 50k effort if you're in the front half of the field, like that kind of thing.
For sure.
So that's one good thing.
Yeah, you need to think that it's like almost like how would I eat throughout the day? Like,
there is an element to that, eh?
Yeah, because you can't survive off gels, for example, for 8 hours. Like, it wouldn't be very sustainable.
Well, definitely for not over. Yeah.
Like, it would have to take a special type of person to be able to survive off gels, like purely, like in an ultra, I would say. I couldn't do it.
Definitely over 8 hours. I think some, like the front runners of a 100k who are finishing in that 8-ish hour window are probably gels, hydration mix, and maybe like banana, right? Like that type of athlete.
Sure.
Like, yeah, those kind of things.
I suppose there's some like things to consider with this, like if it's like 8 hours for 100 Ks, right? Obviously the output is pretty high.
You're probably not listening to this podcast.
No.
Unless you're our friend. And you're like, hey, yeah, no, but this is valid information too.
It's like the output, eh? Like if you're doing 100 Ks in 8 hours, then probably worrying about if you're going to have some mince and rice is probably not high on the nutrition need. Probably more leaning towards, the quick carbs, the gels, the tailwinds, the chews, like bananas, things like that. But if you're like going out for like, I don't know, maybe even 50 Ks in 8 hours, you might want to consider like having some actual food. If anything, it will just break up that palate in your mouth. Like, like when you've eaten so much sweet stuff after a while, like you start feeling sick. And then if you start feeling sick, then you're probably not going to eat. And if you're not going to eat, then you're going to like bunk out. Like you're not going to make it to the finish line in very well state. So...
Yeah, the stomach the GI gets into distress when we, are throwing that much stuff at it, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I was kind of like talking about. Yeah, just very earlier on before is like when we run, like things can happen. Our GI can change.
You might end up in the bushes.
Yes.
Make sure you bring some toilet paper in your hydration vest for the day. Side note. Must-haves, essentials.
Yeah. But also, like, very start, we're like, oh yeah, practice this in training. So hopefully which food causes you to go to the loo.
Then, and not a good way. So yeah, like you hear this thing nowadays, 50 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So to convert that to calories, you just multiply it by 4. And that will give you your calorie calculation. So that's 50 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour is 200 calories to 360 calories an hour.
Whew.
Could you imagine trying to shove 360 calories per hour in you for a long time?
Yeah, that's like having like almost like that. I don't know. It'd be like having a Cliff Bar, a gel, and then some Tailwind. Like
every hour.
Yeah,
definitely. Like Yeah, you'd just be...
Because on average gel's like 125. I know, like the Talk ones, I think they're around 125 calories.
Yeah, gels, yeah, some of them are 70, 80 calories. Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Cliff bars are a couple of hundred, eh? Things
yeah.
like, or flapjack sort of things are a couple of hundred, eh?
Yeah.
Then you might have Tailwind or your hydration mix, 100 or 200. So yeah,
Anyway, it's
that's a lot. Yeah.
So you don't all have to do that. I wouldn't be doing that. I would be fuller than I was in my 100K. And that was not a good time.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what we're sort of alluding to before, isn't it? Is yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I have experimented chucking down that amount of like pure carbohydrate for half marathons and stuff, and it's worked really well for me. Like pre-race and during, it's worked really well for me. And like harder sort of 3-hour things, that amount of carbohydrate can work well. But yeah, in the ultra setting, I really don't think that you need more than 300 calories an hour. Like, and it sort of feeds into what we were talking about before. It's lower intensity. You're not in that zone. You're not in your like zone 3 or 4. You're not utilizing threshold or anaerobic zones in an ultra setting. So therefore, you don't require like quick burning carbohydrates in the same way that you would for a half marathon or a marathon. So and the longer you go as well, at a lower intensity, is your body will actually switch to burning some fat for fuel as well, fat and protein, that slower burning stuff. And you'll be using that carbohydrate that you're putting in, but your body will also be using fat and protein stores. So on that basis, I mean, for me, if it was me, I think I'm closer to the 200. If I'm doing a 12-hour, we're going to do this weekend. I'm going to do 12 hours. Maybe we'll report to you back next week on the next podcast how many calories an hour I reckon I add.
Yeah.
For my 12-hour, hopefully 12 hours effort. But yeah, so I think for that, closer to 200 is sort of good, eh?
For sure. And I think another thing that also plays in consideration is like what you eat in your like day-to-day life, without like getting too sidetracked. Like, so if you eat, if you're like training for a long mission or long ultra, and in your day-to-day life you're eating more of the fats and protein kind of foods, opposed to like the higher carb foods, then in your day-to-day life you get better at using that food as fuel in your day-to-day life.
Fat adapted, eh?
Yes,
term, yeah.
That's right. And therefore when you go into an ultra or a long mission, then the body's already fat adapted at that low intensity work that you're doing in your day-to-day life. And I think that's just like where, even like if I think about where I was in 100K in 2020 to where I am now, I'm like way more fat adapted. So when I go out to be honest, I haven't done like a long run in ages. But like I know that I can not necessarily like not eat, but I know that at a lower intensity that I'm kind of can run pretty strong with relying on those food sources.
Up to that sort of 2 to 3 hour mark, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I would probably, obviously it's like almost like be cool if you could, because I had a client like this actually, Nikki, who would often, she was training for Taupo 50K, and she did a whole lot of like this protocol, and she often would break a fast like 2 hours into a run, and then would probably eat like carbs and whatever. But it's kind of like being able to use that sort of like fat and protein to fuel your run. So
yeah, there is a bit of merit in like a 2-hour fasted run as well, like in training, from what we sort of what the sort of information is out there now. And I think, but yeah, I wouldn't, like, if you're early on in your journey, I wouldn't like necessarily, doesn't mean like go out there and smash a 2-hour run fasted. Like, I think it's sort of, that's sort of when you've been training for a while and you've gotten used to things at shorter distances, and you have a really good understanding of what your aerobic zones are in running as well. And so you're not like, you're doing that, if you're doing a fasted couple of hours in the morning, it's it's at low intensity and all that. So yeah, we're not recommending go out there.
No, I suppose
as well. Like, it's a sort of, it's like one of the layers further on as you advance, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose I'm just getting at the fact that it's just like that you don't have to just like constantly top up with like quick carbs.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, your body doesn't need to do that. It's only when you're in that sort of like half marathon or marathon that it's really important that you do, because just the intensity is like way higher. That's like, to tap into your sort of like your fats, your diesel engine would just take too much energy. You'd be there at the finish line and you wouldn't have achieved your goal. So it's just
what helps you be more efficient, like in that half marathon setting. You're more efficient at being fast, and it's going to move you along quicker because your body's utilizing quick burning fuel.
That's right. You just need to top it up. But yeah,
it's like the race car with the racing fuel versus the truck with the diesel engine.
That is exactly right. They burn through fuel pretty fast. Pretty fast. So
the drag car with the like airplane engine in it.
Yeah. Won't get too much down this analogy because I'll like lose knowledge of it, and I don't know what I'll be talking. Are we really talking shit then?
Funny.
So basically what we're saying is that your 200 to 260 calories
to 360
calories can look like different forms as you go further into the hours of your run. It can look like 200 calories of rice and mince opposed to 200 calories of gels. They are going to offer you two different fueling benefits, and it's knowing when it's appropriate to have that 200 calories of gel and that 200 calories of rice and mince to fuel you to get to the finish line or the end, like in better shape or stronger or faster. Yeah.
So this is what we kind of recommend to our runners and athletes we coach is you just sort of want to devise your sort of maybe it's sort of half a dozen things that you kind of work with in training. So say you're going to do a 100k or 100-mile race, you end up with a sort of a basket of things that you works for you. And so I think something like, for me, it would be something like, I would have gels in the mix, I would have tailwind in the mix, but then I'd have you mentioned sort of rice and mince. That's sort of a something that I could have in the mix, and something like some bar, like you mentioned, Cliff Bars, flapjacks, things like that. Having that sort of thing in the mix, and maybe like a banana, like something in the mix. And so there, like, just from that sort of half a dozen things, we've got a bit of a spread of like of different things in there. And then from there, it's just about sort of cycling through them. And so when we talk about, if you're going more than 8 or 10 hours, then, or over 6-8 hours, you're going to need more real food. So it doesn't mean you do the first 6 or 8 hours on gels only and then switch to the food. It means that you at the beginning, you go early on the food, and that's a general consensus as well, is that you start cycling through your spread of options that you have early in the race. You just sort of go through that. So then you're not like, you're you're not jamming too much of any one thing. And so then, like, you talk about a gel, you might in that scenario, it might be every 2 to 3 hours that you're having a gel, and then maybe you're only having half of it at a time, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it all starts to like layer in pretty nicely when you start doing that.
Sure, and I think like when you're going, another tip is like, obviously we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You could say everyone has that. So it's like around those times, like think about, you wouldn't have a gel for lunch. Like what would you have for lunch? Like could be or what could you have for lunch? So that might be when, that rice and mince or pizza, or pancakes, or I really like, sounds like a bit of an odd mixture, but it's good. It's like fried banana and sardines. An egg.
Would you eat that in a run?
I think so, yeah. I have before. I ate it when we did Tiara Heart twice.
So what is it? Sardine,
banana, and egg like fried in butter.
All mixed together.
Yeah, it's yum. It's yum.
That's cool.
I'd be like really keen to try that out, and like a longer thing. Hopefully I get to do that over summer.
Yeah, because then you're getting some like protein, and some carbohydrates, and some fats. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Like I'm a big fan of sardines. Thanks to Kimmy, Coach Kim. So,
but yeah, it's a good point. Like, and I agree with that as well. Is because your body wants to, even in a ultra, your body wants to follow its normal rhythm of like meal times. I remember that from my last miler. Got to the Okataina aid station at Tarawera and just slammed back some pizza.
Yeah,
it was like a late dinner. It was like 8. It was like dusk kind of thing. But yeah, that was like mealtime.
I reckon a funny time of day also is kind of like between 4 and 5:30.
Definitely.
Where it's like you're winding down to have dinner. And if you've been doing things like running for 6 hours, then your body's like, all right, probably time to stop now, isn't it? But you're not. So think about, obviously maybe like lowering expectations you're running, but also thinking about like the food that you're going to have around that time.
That's a key one too.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be more of that meal type, and it will be like have something satiating as well, opposed to just thinking, oh, she'll be right on the gel. Might not be like enough at that time of the day. So think of dinner time. You're having dinner really early. It's at 4:30.
Or it's that's when you might strategically use like some caffeine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Maybe for the first time, like in the day.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, especially if it's like summer, like that's where you might like save your special can of Coke. So yeah, that's where limiting caffeine in that first, in a miler situation or 100K, that's maybe going to take you 12 plus hours. Holding off on something like caffeine can be good until then. Like aside from the morning, if you're having coffee.
Yeah, but that was like ages ago.
Yeah, that was like ages ago.
That's your day-to-day life. You do that your day-to-day life. You don't like.
There's no way I could start a race without coffee. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it's almost because we make a really good coffee. It has those fats.
And I'm addicted.
Little Chrissy boy always tries to get down to 1.
Love my coffee,
but he can't.
Yeah. It's a battle. Yeah, sometimes I overdo it and can't sleep well at night, and then I'm like, oh god, I've got to cut back my coffee again.
It's just like
to 1.
4 years in.
It's a cycle.
It's 4 years, and we've gone through the cycle probably like 500 times.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got my little special coffee that I have for pre like big runs. The shot of coffee, the nice big blob of butter, and honey, and a bit of maple syrup as well, and like cream or a bit of cream on top, or the shot, hot water, a bit of cream on top, or whatever. Yeah.
High fat milk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all I put in it?
I think so. I think if you had any more, it would be like not enough room for the liquid.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah.
I find that really good.
I also have like some variants of that as well. I don't have honey in my coffee every day. Chris, but I do when it comes to like longer stuff. I'm going to go out for it's like a little treat, I guess, for myself. Going out for a longer run. That I like to do it as well. I like to bulk up my coffee, but on a regular day, I just have like coffee, and I have like MCT oil or coconut oil, and milk, and sometimes cinnamon.
Cinnamon and coffee.
Yes.
Yeah, that is quite nice.
Yeah, I seem to be going through a phase of that at the moment. But anyway, another sort of, okay, so we've kind of like talked about the recommendations and suggestions of the calorie per hour, but in terms of the actual food that make up that, like, especially when you're getting into like not the gels or not the tailwind, which you buy, like what works for you. There's no right or wrong. So like some people can survive off, I don't know, like sometimes struggle, like bars, no, but like real food, like I don't know, like potatoes and
oh yeah, that's a popular one.
That might not work for another person, or
yeah, it wouldn't work for me.
I think I had spoken to a client the other day, and he said something about like corn thins, or no, not corn thins, like corn chips or something, like, but it probably worked quite well for him. Whereas like that might not work for me.
Salty crisps, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite good for that sort of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of like rinse and recycle the same things over and over again. So, and I feel like a lot of people eat sort of similar as well. So it's not like there's
huge
variety. But there might be. I just haven't spoken to everyone. Oh, like sandwiches.
Sandwiches are a good one. Yeah.
Some people have eaten sandwiches. I've never tried it, so I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, like peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that wouldn't. Again, that's not something that I would.
No.
It wouldn't work well for me, I don't think.
But it might work well for you. Basically, is what we're trying to say is like doesn't.
Yeah, you're not us.
No, and that's right. You don't have to be us. You don't have to be like us. So yeah, it's just kind of like that's why in training you trial out these foods.
So yeah, talking about that, because say your longest training run might be 6 hours, which that you're quite comfortable. You might be quite comfortable for 6 hours with your hydration mix, gels, and some bars. That's typically what I would like. I'm pretty sweet for 6 hours on that. So then it's like, oh, okay, well, how do I practice the food part of this equation for my 12, hour ultra, or my 14, 16 hour ultra, or longer if you're doing a miler? How do we do that? How would you do that? How would I do that?
We were kind of talking about this like earlier on. You could start with like, so basically like you're in the car park and you have your pizza or your mince and rice, and you're basically just eating some, and then you got your pack on already as well, right? So you're basically standing there eating your rice and your pizza, and then you're going to start running. So, or you're going to start with that pizza in your hand as you start your run. You could do that. So basically, like, you probably haven't preloaded your run with your fuel, like with your like if you're running at lunchtime, you haven't had lunch and then gone for your run. You kind of like having your lunch on the run. Take your lunch with you. Or you could, have it some way through. Like if you're going in the morning, like if you're starting at like 6, you've had your coffee, and then at like 8, you're having your breakfast.
That's the approach I would take. Yeah, for sure.
The other one sounded a little crazy.
Pizza in the car park at 7 a.m. Let's go. Have you tried that? Have you? I'm honestly trying that. The next long run we go on, okay?
You film me.
Yeah, and we'll document it.
Half an hour in.
Yeah.
We'll
do a post about it. Right. Yeah.
You know, on Instagram stories when it's like you can put the time, like
Yeah. 6 a.m. Yeah.
It's like how you would be like if you'd been up all night.
Yeah.
Except we haven't. We've gotten up at like, you know, we've gone to bed and gotten up at 4:30 for this 6 a.m. run.
So yeah, that's another really. I think that's a real good one. Is yeah, when you're wanting to practice food for say a 6-hour run, is perhaps starting without and sort of bringing it in early as you go on, and so you're sort of in a sense like forcing that food into the equation,
Yeah.
and just seeing how it goes for you. And you do instinctively know what kind of foods work for you in a sense with running, because you'll already be like, just listen to your body, what your body's kind of telling you. I mean, we sort of know like foods that we gravitate towards post like runs, or pre, like you sort of already have an idea. So just lean into like, that intuition of what your body's telling your head of what you might need, and I think another mistake I've made in the past is just having too many options as well. Like, and just ending up with this like ridiculous amount of things, and so I think you sort of keep it to like, I mean, obviously the longer like if you're going 24 hours or over, then it is, you're probably going to need a couple of like meal type options, and you probably need a bit more options, but essentially, if you're cycling through your options, you might cycle through all your options in a 4-hour range, each 4-hour block. Then you're not going to get like sick of everything, really.
No, because you're literally not eating, unless you're maybe on the 360 calorie end, you're not literally eating like for 8 hours either, straight. It's like there are breaks where you're not eating as well. So, because remember, some of these foods that you are eating are quite calorie dense, so you're eating your bar and then you're filled up, so then you've got the rest of the hour. Eating that bar might take you what, I don't know, a minute, 2.
Well, and that's another thing we should talk about actually, is like how you kind of go about, because I wouldn't eat a whole bar in one hit.
No, I actually never done that either. Yeah. I eat half. I play with it. I eat it. It's all.
So yeah, I think it's like what I kind of do in that setting is I just look to sort of have something every 20 minutes. That's kind of, so it's just like this little and often from the start. And so it might look like 20 minutes, 20 minutes in, I'm like half a gel. Then I'm kind of sipping on my Tailwind in the background. I always have a bottle of Tailwind, like a 200 calorie mix of Tailwind, so 2 scoops in a 500 ml bottle. And then my other bottle is just water only. So I'm not drinking like one or the other all the time. I'll like, when I feel like a sip of Tailwind, I'll just have a sip. That bottle might last me a good couple of hours, maybe even a bit longer. Then I'll be having water in the mix as well. So yeah, with the gel, I might just have half a gel, and then 20 minutes later, I might be like, I'm going to have a bite of this bar now. And 20 minutes later, it's like, I'm going to have a bit of banana, and you're just kind of cycling through this thing, little and often, sipping the Tailwind.
I suppose I'm the same, actually. I always, unless I'm like, a bit hungry or whatever, I won't have a whole thing at once. yeah, I tend to like, especially bars, I kind of eat half of it and I put it back in my pack pocket. And
And you just end up with all these like half open things, eh?
yeah,
What was my thing? I carried a Danish. I carried a Danish, cinnamon bun, a squashed cinnamon bun in the back of my shorts in Tarawera Maila for like what 80 k's or something, or 100 k's. Like it was just there the whole day.
Yeah.
And I just left it, and I kept forgetting to throw it out.
Not on your site.
So it just ended up there for the whole race.
Did not get eaten.
Quite funny, eh?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Practice and training what you plan to do in your race. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing I was going to say. Is another little trick is yeah, when I know that I'm coming into an aid station, or perhaps like I've got a crew meeting me, or I know that there's going to be a nice cold can of Coke waiting for me, then I'll as I know I'm getting closer to the aid station, then I'll hold off. I'll hold off for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I won't go into that aid station like having just had something. If I know that I'm going to be having something that's like waiting for me, just little timing things, nuance like that. Yeah, I'll like hold off and be like, oh, cool, I'm looking forward to my Coke.
Yes, that is a good tip.
Little things like that. Or if I know pizza's coming, or I won't be throwing back food before, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
That's a really good tip. So yeah, in the ultra setting, especially once you start going like, I don't know. If you're doing a miler, and you're, I think that 200 to 300 calories as a guide. So 200 on the sort of minimum end. Pretty easy to get 200 calories, like we said before, as a minimum. And then you're going to have certain hours throughout the day, like we kind of talked about, around and it's probably going to fall naturally around those meal time windows. And there's going to be certain hours of the day where you're probably going to slam back 300. You might have a couple of hours that are around lunchtime, early afternoon. You might have 2 hours in a row where you might happen to knock back 300. And because your body's like just wanting more, and so go with that. Without going crazy, just go with that kind of feeling. Same at dinner time, around those hours. 6 or 5 to 8 p.m. You might just feel that you need a bit more. And that's all good. Yeah, and the same with hydration too, right? Like the same applies to like liquid, like liquid. Whether it's got some hydration mix in it, like Tailwind, or it's just water only. It's that same thing, right? Like I kind of work on sort of 300 to 700 mils per hour kind of thing. And when I'm working out, like, how much am I going to need? I just kind of work it out on 500 mils an hour. But then I know instinctively that there's going to be certain, like, depending on the temperature and all that kind of stuff, or the time of day, there might be certain hours where I take in like 300 to 500. But then if it's like a race that's in summer and it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I know I'm going to be drinking like 600-700 mils in those hours. And so in those kind of settings, then I might actually favour the tailwind. Like, I'm just increasing my sort of mix of that because my body's wanting more liquids, it's wanting more hydration, and so I'm just chucking back. It's a really good way of thing, because it is quite hard, can be quite tricky, like getting the calories in when it's really hot. So that's, I think, where liquid, things like tailwind and that come in really good.
For sure. And I was just like, hot. I think there's like two things, like that 500 mils an hour is like a good minimum, but there's also like that drink to thirst. Like that's like kind of like what you were saying, when it's hot, like you're probably going to be more thirsty. So, it's like you're going to get that 500 mils easy. And then you don't just stop there and be like, done that, need to drink to thirst. And I think, in terms of hydration at the moment, like I am like loving, like linked up with this company, NZ company, and have like North called MNRL, and it's like hydration, and it's super simple. It's potassium, magnesium, and sodium, and so it doesn't actually have any calories in it. A little tip actually that I have been doing is putting a little bit of tailwind in it as well, just to add a bit more calories. But for me, like, I find it like it's really good on my stomach, and I like am getting the sort of hydration with the ease on my stomach. So that's like another option that you could do as well.
With some calories, you're getting some calories too.
Yeah.
And that's where there's like individual differences, right?
Totally.
So, yeah, I like a good, tailwind as part of my mix works well. Whereas yourself, you like on the lower end of that, just like a little bit, eh?
Yeah. And yeah, so it's just figuring out, like, I've just figured that out in training, like if I have too much tailwind, it doesn't do good for my digestion. So I only have it I have to, but I've figured out this little mix that I like. It's working for me, and therefore I'm drinking more actually, because like if you have something and you don't like it or it doesn't work for you, but you're having it because you think you need it, you're not going to use it, and so therefore it's just like carrying around this thing.
It ultimately won't work for you when it needs to, when you're out there 14 hours deep.
Yeah, it's not going to do much sitting in your soft flask.
Yeah.
Except give you some that uncomfortable feeling of running with breast implants. Yeah.
On that note, I think is that pretty much us with this? Yeah. Practice and training what you plan to do in your race. It's the golden rule, isn't it? Yeah. And we've talked about carb. Yeah. I think that's it, really. So what am I going to use this weekend?
Well,
what am I using this weekend?
You've Talk.
Yeah. So I've been using Talk gels, or Talk gels and bars and stuff lately, and it's been working really well for me.
I like them too.
Side note as well, we do have a CMF discount for Talk, full Talk stuff from Fuel Me, and we do have a CMF discount for Tailwind as well. And we only seek to get discounts off our partners if it's stuff we believe in as well. We don't. It's not any old Tom, Dick, and Harry, in the partner program. So,
yes.
So yeah, that's just a side note on that. So yeah, Talk has been working well for me. So yeah, that's what I'm going to use this weekend. Some Talk gels. I'm going to use the bars and the chews, or the bars or the chew, that kind of way. And Tailwind. I'll use Tailwind, and I will use maybe some fruitcake, eh?
Maybe some Chrissy's fruitcake.
Yeah. So my dad's wife, Chrissy, makes an awesome fruitcake, which I know some of you had Blue Lake on the communal table this year. I was talking to one of my, I don't know if I told you this, eh? I was talking to Catherine, one of the runners I coach, and I was asking her, I was like, so, because you got Kepler coming up in a couple of weeks. I was like, what did you, we're just talking about fueling. I was like, what did you use for, like Blue Lake and stuff? And she's like, yeah, blah, 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 this and that. And she said, yeah, and there was this amazing fruitcake. There was this amazing fruitcake on the communal table. And I was like, I brought that. So, yeah. And that's pretty epic, actually. So, yeah, Chrissy, my dad's wife, made this awesome fruitcake. Oh, it's so good. And, I think that's got it's actually got a good mix of, things in it, I reckon. And because we put butter on it as well. So good.
Yum. Definitely be good for the crew as well.
Yeah. So if you're lucky, you get to try some this weekend. So yeah, bit of fruitcake, and then what's my meal food going to be?
Probably what you like that, right?
Yeah, a bit of rice, although I did find it a bit dry last time at Blue Lake, but I think it was just...
Well, maybe we'll have to moisten it up.
Put a bit of broth in there or something. Moisten up the mix. But yeah, some kind of like ricey egg mince kind
Oh,
of mix.
what about cassava pancake?
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah. I don't know how easy that would be though.
Would they go with the dry? Would they go with the dry mince?
Bit of a mess. Yeah. You know, that's the sort of thing. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that's really nice when you've just made it at home and you've like, you know, you got your maple syrup and everything there ready to go. But I don't know how like user friendly that would be.
I don't know.
You tried that, eh? The Mila, the crew that I trained with a few years ago. He like had pancakes, eh? Remember?
Yeah, I was actually just like thinking back. I took this photo of my nutrition on that run, and there was like ginger beer, there were like spring gels, there were pancakes, and it probably was tailwind. It was like this really cool photo of my like nutrition that I had taken. But yeah, I think that was just basically all that kind of stuff. I can't remember what else, but it was like 4 years ago now. But yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to do this weekend. Got my talk gels, the bars, the tailwind, yeah, Coke and ginger beer. That's going to be in the mix.
Nice.
And some fruitcake, and probably some meal option.
Yeah, I suppose the thing about 12 hours is that you're going to be home for dinner as well. So
yeah, there's quite a lot of options, isn't it?
Like, yeah. I think it's probably a different conversation. Like when you're not going to be home for dinner, like it probably changes again. Like that's when you need that more meal stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we do find, right? Yeah, after over each, like, yeah, definitely things change over 12 hours as well. It's another like
podcast.
Things just seem to change, like in the body. It's like, yeah, 4 hours and under, yeah, 8 hours, yeah. You get the different breaks of time where things change. So yeah, it'll be a good training. Like this weekend will be a good training thing for me, like in that respect. Because yeah, hopefully I get to go longer later.
Yes.
Maybe at fault line. Yes, that'll be fun.
Very cool.
Anyway, I think that's about us, isn't it?
I think so.
Let us know what you think of all that, and sing out if you have any questions. Yeah, flick us a message on like Instagram or something. We're really easy to find, just at CMF Run.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want help with your running, you can reach out to us for a free coach call. We can just have a yarn. If you want to join our annual club membership, it's just $30 a year. $30 a year, mate. That's so cheap. So affordable. And then you get access to all our community stuff, private groups, private chats, and all our discount partners, of course, of which we have a good chunk. So it's like an investment. It's like a running investment.
Yeah. Yes. And I was just thinking that if you want to reach out to us personally, we're also on Instagram. NZ Nomad Runner.
Yeah.
Trail Girl Charlotte.
Yeah.
We're easy. Connect all three.
We're easy to find.
Cool.
Rightio. Catch you on the next one.
See ya.